Welcome to the 22-23 school year School Health Advisory Council. This is our first meeting happening on October 5th at 12:15 p.m. This session today, we're going to ask Mr. Ivy to give us a presentation on the school safety updates that have been occurring on our campuses this year.
All right, thank you very much, Cheryl. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through this presentation. So we're going to go back in history just a little bit back to 2018 to start off with. And in 2018, we took a bond proposal to the voters, and in November of 2018, it passed, and it was a $89.9 million bond. It included a lot of safety elements and other things as well, roofing replacements, HVAC replacements, and upgrades. But what we're talking about today, of course, is safety. And so we're going to go back in time to 2018 and just remember that actually the summer of 2019, we had our first projects, and those were to install secure vestibules at our elementary campuses. We upgraded our security cameras at the elementary campuses and at Type High School. We did some fire alarm replacements or upgrades at Smart Units, Daniels, and Urban Childhood campus. And we also put interior locking mechanisms on the inside of doors at the elementary campuses and BT Wilson. And of course, the two big projects we did for more than just safety, but they certainly had safety elements. For building the new Hal Peterson Middle School, which got all the students under one roof and off of Sidney Baker Street. It also was built with a lot of safety and security combined with drop-down, lockdown gates at the entrances to each of the academic houses. Lots of great sight lines, security cameras, just all kinds of things that make that a much safer place than it was for students before. And then the new ag barn, people don't realize that that was a safety project as well, unless they went to the ag barn before. And it was in terrible shape and old, dilapidated, and quite frankly, not a very safe place for students or animals. In fact, there was many people who did want their children's animals cut at the ag barn. So we rebuilt that, and it is a great facility. It's safe for students and for animals. And so with that, all of our projects, we do have money left over that was not spent in that original money. And so when we had the shooting in Uvalde back in May, we started working on a lot of different projects to further improve safety elements at our campuses. So some facility upgrades that have happened over the summer, and we're still working on this fall, is we went back to tidy. And we put interior locking mechanisms on classroom doors at Tidy. And then we also, we did not include that in our Hal Peterson Middle School construction project, I'm trying to say that. And so we went back and put some of those interior locking mechanisms on instructional spaces at Peterson. We added some fencing at Tidy High School to encompass the ag classrooms, auto mechanics, and construction trades. So we have fencing that goes all around that back area where we have roll-up doors for auto mechanics and welding shop. That gets all that behind the fence so that we're not vulnerable to somebody who's walking into those areas and trying to do harm. We built a new security vestibule at the childhood campus over the summer and finished up at the beginning of the school year. We are in the process of adding security glass at key entry points to the academic wings down at Peterson Middle School. So that's just an additional layer of protection that supplements those drop-down gates I talked about a minute ago. And then we're also in the process right now of adding 7-foot fencing around playground areas and other perimeter areas of our elementary school campuses. So Tidy folks over there, if you go by Daniels Elementary School on your way back to Tidy, you should see fence posts in the ground. And the great thing about Daniels is we're going to be able to get the annex behind the fence. And so we're going to have a rolling gate that goes across that driveway that goes between the main building and the annex. And that'll be a secure rolling gate. And so we'll have all of that kind of where kids can cross between both of the buildings behind the fence, so that's going to be really, really good. And then we have a request for proposals out right now to add security film on exterior doors and storefront glass at all campuses. So at Tybee High School, that would include the art classrooms. So we have the glass kind of floor to ceiling, all the entrances to the building, and all of that gets the security film, which makes it very, very difficult for somebody to breach. So they could shoot through the film, but if they still are not going to be able to break through and enter the building, it's something that it's designed to stop someone from being able to enter the building who has attempted to shoot through it. So that's we're taking those proposals. We're opening bids next week on Wednesday, and we're hoping to have a good qualifying bid that we can take to the board for approval. We can start that process pretty soon. That's going to be a big project. Okay, and so that's stuff that has costed us money that we've been working on, and then there's just a slew of other things that we've been doing and planning this year. So first being a targeted partial safety audit for all of our campuses. So our campuses were asked to kind of inspect 55 different areas of their buildings that include access to the building, it includes their visitor, when visitors come to visit the campus, how, what's the procedure for that, how are we screening for that, looking at just other safety kind of elements on the campuses. We conducted an exterior door safety audit and made repairs, and in that process, all of the exterior doors across the campus have been numbered and mapped. And the important thing about the maps is, number one, it helps staff at campuses to do the daily and weekly exterior door inspections, which are required of all of our campuses. That happens every single day, where we're having staff go around and check doors to make sure that they're locked and latched. Then on a weekly basis, we're doing an actual inspection on those doors, and then those maps can help us when if we have to write a work order for the doors to be repaired. Then it could be door 7A, and maintenance department knows exactly where to go. The other good thing about those maps is that they can be shared with local law enforcement, and if there is some kind of emergency, then local law enforcement could say, hey, I'm entering door number 22B, and every campus is numbered in a clockwise manner. And so if you're at door number 7, then and somebody says they're at door number 9, then the officer will run to the left, and vice versa. I personally at door number 7, but the officer saying I'm at door number 2. Okay, I'm going to run to the right. And so we all kind of have that very standardized process there. We have campus signage directing visitors to check in at the front office. It's an important element. Campus access control procedures have been updated. I was talking about that just a minute ago, that partial safety audit. All the campuses were asked to look at their access controls. And some of the audit, honestly, maybe it wasn't quite a very well-defined procedure, but now there is. We had Kerrville Police Department do security walkthroughs at all of our campuses before school started, and we had a really good meeting with them right before school started, telling us some of the no issues, but just observations that they made. The good news, the good report that we heard was there was evidence that the staff had thought a lot about access control, that everybody knew what the procedures were for standard response protocol, locking doors. So there was just a few recommendations here and there. One being that is we need to work on is that when we are the police department saying if we're in your building, we don't know where we are in your building, and so it would be really helpful to label the different corridors and peaks. Like the high school, they're already labeled that way, but in many other places they're not. And so that's an element that we're going to work on, is getting interior labels of this is the elementary campus, this is the kinder first grade mall, this is the second, third grade mall, middle school, they are by academic houses, so it's the FU, and similarly Tybee High School. It's the same way. We're gonna make sure that we're labeling those areas, and also also labeling the doors, those exterior doors from the inside as well, so that they can see both. So that was good feedback that we're going to implement. Another thing we're going to do is provide the Critical Police Department with real-time access to our security camera system. And so we're actually, we have a laptop ready to be delivered that has will give the police department the ability to VPN to our network and then see security footage on demand at any of our campuses. So that was another request of the police department. And I'll say one thing here I didn't put on this paper here, but I can add to it. I will add to it. Is we've also provided the police department keys to all of our buildings, and so every patrol car has a key to start the car, and every key it has the verbalized keys we gave to our grandmaster and general master key, so that will get them into just about any door in the district. So that is, I pick up my key to my patrol vehicle. Those school keys are on that key ring. So that's another great request on the police department as well. Okay. Another thing we've been working on is response training and drilling. So training for response to an emergency and then drilling that. So big thing that we did this year, I think, for training was training all of our staff, including our substitutes, on the standard response protocol and citizen response to active shooter event, also called CRAVES. We've provided age-appropriate training in SRP and self-evacuation for students. So that's one of the things that's important to remember is that anywhere you are in a building, if there is an emergency that involves an active threat, one option that everyone has is to self-evacuate. That's right along with the idea of CRAVES. So you see on the screen there, avoid, deny, defend. Those are the three actions that are trained in that CRAVES training. So first, if you can avoid the situation, do so. That means evacuate. If you can't evacuate, then deny access to the area that you're in by giving a unlocked door. I'll say that there has not been an active shooting event in a school in which a locked door has been breached by a shooter, and in that space. So lockdown is a really good, action to take, and one that you would say in your first, our first and foremost, that should be what you do if you're in a space that you can do that. But if you're not, then avoid the situation by leaving. We asked principals to pre-schedule all of their campus safety drills. The reason for that is if we're not pre-scheduling them before the beginning of the year, then they kind of happen at a whim. So you know what, it feels like maybe this week's a good week for a lockdown. Well, maybe we should have done that in the first few weeks of school rather than sometime in the middle of the semester. When we have severe weather drills, let's not do a severe weather drill at the end of April because severe weather can start in the month of March. So let's do that with some intentionality. So that was the purpose behind that. I have gone and trained the local Criminal Police Department command staff in SRP. I did that last week, and I have an appointment with the Crow County Sheriff's Office command staff next week, and just making sure that everybody's speaking the same language when it comes to SRP. Really important, kind of came to light a couple of weeks ago. Tally Elementary had to go into a secure because there was a high-speed chase that was coming down Oak Creek Road, and so as that chase was nearing Tally, there started to be calls for put Tally on lockdown. And lockdown is not secure. It's a whole different thing. It implies a whole lot of different other things. And so there was a little bit of confusion, but we got the right thing happened, but there was some confusion on what we should be calling it. And then sure enough, there was the people that were involved in that high-speed chase ended up, they ended up stopping on Lewis Street and then they fled. And so there was a manhunt going on around town during that time. So anyway, it's very important that we have our language the same, and that way we're not confused and we're not doing the wrong thing, we're not doing anything. And in that situation, we need to unlock all those exterior doors and make sure that we didn't have anybody outside. So the quicker we get the right message and do that, the better. Because if we would have said lockdown, everybody's locking their doors in the classrooms. If there's somebody that's out in the hallway, they may go, oh, well, I'm just going to avoid the situation. And then they're leaving the building and they're going out into a situation where there's a manhunt going on. So it's really important that we're using the right terminology. We also this summer had a reunification site walk or walkthrough with local first responders. So we had the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, County Constables, DPS was there, Fire Department was there, and we were at our district reunification site and just saying, okay, here's how this would work if we have a situation where we need to evacuate campus and reunify students with their parents. So that was a really good meeting that was kind of early in the summer. It got kind of that community of people talking together. We've all been trained, administrators have been trained in BIMS and ICS. And you probably saw in the paper, we had interagency active shooter drills at the old HAMS, it's HPMS, that's a mistake, but the old HAMS, the old HPMS. And that was a really good, a good scenario. They had an active shooter scenario. They went as far as like the 911 call was made. So dispatcher picks up the phone and then they called out the issue, and then they had teams of people going in with fire department, tactical, going behind the law enforcement, and they drilled that. They had enough people that they did it 2 or 3 times to get everybody through it. But the really good thing about that is the first day, I was able to sit in the command staff trailer and with the chief of police and the fire chief and other high-level command people within those departments. And we were there talking through the scenario as they were actually conducting the operations. And so we had a lot of really good conversations through that process. Okay, this was happening. What would we be considering? Each time they did it, okay, where's this one happening? Okay, this one's happening at campus B. All right, so where is campus B? It's over here. So what are the unique characteristics of that building we were discussing if that situation was happening at that place? And so that was very, very good conversations amongst us. And then we also had the opportunity for Shelby Falzer from Tidy High School and Tana from Peterson Middle School and a couple of assistant principals that got to go and watch some of that building happening as well. Just kind of to see what they do, to see how they're interacting with the situation is very informative and helps for our planning as well. Preventative measures. So of course, if we can avoid all this or anything from happening in the first place, that's what we need to absolutely focus our attention on. And so we've been talking to students about using the Sandy Hook Promise to Say Something campaign. It's just encouraging students to know the signs of a person who may be in crisis or may hurt themselves or others, and just simply say something. We have a P3 anonymous reporting tool. We've expanded our campus threat assessment teams to include a nurse, a general ed teacher, a special ed teacher. Previously, it was an administrator and a counselor. So we're adding people to our threat assessment teams. Our secondary campuses have had somebody go through digital threat assessment training, which is helping to investigate any kind of threat that might be launched through social media or web-based media. We've been really focusing on bullying awareness, you prevent it, and know what to do if you see it. And then we've also trained all of our instructional staff and others in trauma-informed care, which is basically the idea that we know we have students that have experienced trauma outside of school in most cases, and trauma it changes the way the student has their outlook on life, their outlook on school, and their outlook on the future, and training people to understand what that impact has helps us to better serve our students and be very preventative for future problems. And then personnel resources. So we have been adding personnel to try to help with these situations. So or to try to prevent and to support response. So the district signed an MOU with the city of Kerrville at the beginning of the school year to add 2 additional resource officers that will serve elementary campuses. Those folks have not been hired yet, but what I'm hearing right now is that we're likely to have 1 hired before Christmas, and then the second sometime in the spring. So that'll be really good. And then one of those people will be a sergeant. And so that's what that means is school resource officers. It's kind of a niche kind of a deal right now. Our school resource officers have a supervisor who is a sergeant, but they're not directly understanding what a school resource officer is and what the demands are. And so of the 4 resource officers, 1 is going to be a sergeant, and the other 3 will answer to that sergeant. And then the sergeant will answer to the patrol lieutenant. So that structure is really well aligned, and really happy to see that that's going to happen. The 2 officers we have right now are fantastic, and can't wait to add 2 more to that team. Cover as well. We've also hired a Safe and Supportive Schools program coordinator. Safe and Supportive Schools really encompasses a lot of different things, really 6 different areas that are focused on, and I'll just go through those real quickly. The first is that this person is going to be helping to develop programs and develop strategies for promoting a positive school climate at all of our campuses. They'll be tasked with helping to build a multi-tiered system of support for school mental health. So that includes our campus counselors and their jobs to provide guidance lessons to all students, create small groups of students for small group counseling who have similar emotional needs, individual counseling. It also brings in our district social workers, helps us to collaborate with SHAC, which I'll talk about in just a minute, and then things that we haven't even dreamed up yet, that would just be ideas to build a system of support for school mental health. A third area, which is actually my area, is conducting behavioral threat assessments, and so I'm going to still be in that realm of hoping to manage that and oversee that part of it. But then back to this coordinator position, promoting awareness, guidance, and training resources that are going to support this Safe and Supported Schools program purpose. And then kind of the cherry on top, if we can get there, and really we're not going to, all these things I'm telling you are not going to happen in the next 6 months. It's going to be a 3-year process to roll all this. The kind of the cherry on top is collecting data that can be used to improve the program over time. So that's a whole, that piece right there is a big job in itself. And then the last one, which I'm also keeping, is supporting facility safety, security, and emergency operation planning. So out of the 6, I'll have 2 of them, and then the coordinator will have the other 4 that have to do with climate and services for kids. We're also we're converting, so we have an open position at Tidy High School for hall monitor, and we are making, it's really a part-time job, and we are converting that position into a full-time job to be what I'm calling right now a door monitor, and their job will be to monitor the doors to the school that come in from the student parking lot into the main building. And everybody here knows this, but the Tidy High School office is in really bad location for safety. And so we have all the exterior doors locked, but we have the door where students enter and exit. It's monitored, but there's not a great line of sight between the office and that doorway. And we have passing periods where kids are leaving that are authorized to leave, and not leaving without authorization. Somebody could be walking up to the school at the same time and just walk through that open door. And so, and that's it's a pretty busy place, and so we're gonna post somebody up at that door full time. They will have access to our Raptor software to make badges. They will have access to the door buzzer that will allow you to come in and out, and other technological, whatever other technology resources they need. So that's been posted, and working on getting that filled and getting the technology in place that needs to be there. Another thing for our elementary campuses, we kicked off Partners on Patrol, and that's a program where citizens can volunteer to be kind of additional campus presence. So they're not armed, but they are there to be eyes, to help campuses monitor access to the campus, check on doors, just be around the school in a positive way, and helping to just put more eyes on things and be watchful. So we just started advertising that last week, and this week we're going to see people signing up to do that, and be able to implement it for next week as far as we've also added, this is really not for students, but for staff, some mental health resources for school staff. We have a local person, Sharon Locke, Dr. Sharon Locke, who employees, if they're having some mental health issues, they can actually call on her. It's confidential. We don't know who calls or why, but we do get the bill from that. So she's there to support staff. And then finally, we are researching a school marshal program. And researching is the key word there. That's why it's underlined. There's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, a school marshal program it allows for people, school staff members, to be armed on the campus. And what that means practically is for people that are directly engaged with students on a regular basis, so teachers, instructional aides, they can't actually carry the weapon on their person. It can be in a locked storage container, locked safe in their classroom. If you're a person who is not regularly interacting with kids, then it can be carried on the person. So that would be like an administrator, counselor, nurse, and okay. And so it requires, with the school marshal program, it starts with finding volunteers who want to do it. Those volunteers have to pass a psychological screening, which is probably another reason why. What do you think, Carlos? They have to pass a psychological screening, and then after that, they have to go through 80 hours of TCOL training. TCOL is what police officers get trained with. So 80 hours of training on weapon use and tactical movement through an event. Just a lot of training. And so, and then of course, with all that, there's a lot of policies and procedures that have to be put in place and things of that nature. So we are actively researching that. There is a webinar that me and Dr. Faust are going to attend next Friday, I think. And we'll know a little bit more after that. It's kind of how-to guide on setting up your school marshal program.
Will you be a school?
We haven't even gone there yet. I don't know. I don't know yet. That is a good question. We're not sure who would be.
Yeah.
It would be called on, but yeah. There's a lot to think through. And finally, the last page. Just things that we're working on. So we're working on it. So one, campus go bags. This is another request from the Kerrville Police Department. They would like to place a go bag or tactical bag, whatever you want to call it, that will have ballistic shields in them. It will have breaching equipment, so something that you can pop the door open quickly. That's possibly locked. And other medical equipment that would be for emergency medical equipment, so stop the bleed kinds of things. And they even want to put some ammunition for different levels of weapons that they use in those bags. And so they would be placed within the school in a secured location. You know where those bags are, and if you need to, they would know where to find all that stuff if on site, would not have to wait for it to be brought into the location. Another thing that people probably don't know is that our school resource officers, they have in their offices, they do have a long rifle and ballistic vest and ballistic helmet. So they're equipped right now for something if it happened. But we're talking about further response. So this patrol officers arrive on scene. If anybody needed that equipment, they would. Also actively planning a tabletop active threat drill with police and fire departments. That would be really, it's not a go out there. It's not like what we did at Hal Peterson Middle School, where there's actually people going into buildings and breaching places, but it's more about it's a situational kind of a drill where we set up the situation. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? And then we inject some kind of a change to that situation. And so, okay, now the situation's changed with new information. What do you do? What do you do? Okay, now here's another inject. So now the situation has changed again. What do you do? What do you do? And so I went through the training this summer and trained with. There was a really interesting group of people. There was fire departments there were police departments from municipal police departments, school district police departments, even the Alpha colleges and some of the universities in San Antonio were there, and then just school people like me. And they broke us into groups that were multidisciplinary groups. And the conversations that came out of that process with those people was like, wow, everybody walked out of there with fun. So it's really valuable. So I was trained to be able to create that scenario based drill, and then our partners with police and fire have similar training. So we're working on that. I just got a person in the police department. I just got somebody from the fire department yesterday. So the three of us are going to work to create these drills. We also need to create and train a district reunification team. And so that's an area that kind of sometimes keeps me up at night, because if we needed to use it, we could reunify people with their children at the unification site. That could happen, but it would not be a really organized scenario. So we want to get a team of people in the district who are not campus assigned people. So Cheryl Lanchester is not a campus assigned person, so she could be on that team. Scott will be on that team, because we have to consider, that process takes a long time. And so we need to feed the kids and we need to make sure they're well watered and everything else. And Joe will be on it because we need to make sure that we have toilet paper and paper towels and the facilities working correctly. And so we just need to get that team built and trained on how to do this. So then we need to drill that process. Currently working on updating the district emergency operations plan. So that's a good process. Gets your mind thinking about things in different ways, and then just developing and implementing safe and support school program initiatives. And of course, that goes back to that coordinator position that's going to be working through that. That is everything that I have for that. Is there any questions or suggestions, or have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?
I know you've thought about the new police officers come on, kind of sure there's a process in place for periodically that familiarizing themselves.
There is. Yes.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
Moving around.
Yeah, that's been discussed. I've been told that happens, but it's been discussed, and I know it's on the top of their list too.
I like reunification involving a district team, because as principal, we would visit our First Christian Church, and everybody knew they had signs in their bags, put on the door, their great little signs. Everybody knew every year where they were going to be visited, wanted. But I never really knew how I was going to handle that fire and get kids. It was like you had the counselor and the nurse, everybody assigned at the front, and they would walk in. But I really never, you just said we're going to do it. Everybody had a class list of their cookie bags and all that. But you worry what's going to happen when it happens. How quickly can we do it? Or traffic. Am I supposed to be responsible for traffic? It's like,
Right,
so there is so much to it. So I think that visiting those sites and really walking through, here's where, you know, we would say, here's the entry, this is the drive, but really practicing it.
Using people that aren't on a campus or that aren't already, so, you know, I could see someone like me sitting at a table with lists of names and checking in with different classes. I mean, it takes a lot of logistics at that point.
If
So,
everybody was assigned to a grade level, you're kind of the hands and feet of that convening communications and
Exactly.
teachers with kids. I mean, it's
Right.
like I'm asking teachers to calm kids, listen while they're walking, and then a walker go get, you know, it's just
a lot.
it's a lot. And then
Yeah.
my fear is that it's gonna happen at lunch and they can't get to their buddy bags. So then I was like, we gotta hide notebooks in the cafeteria under the, you know, bag, because what do you do?
I know, and it's likely to happen at the worst time.
Yes, yes. I mean, so that's why I like waking up. Those kind of things.
So we do drill for those first times also,
Yeah.
and those plans are in place as well. Will you speak just a little bit to, you said the police department has access to our campus cameras, but it's just on one laptop?
Right
They
now,
just
it's
have that
on
one.
one, yes, so.
How's that?
Well, here's the thing, that is a intermediary step. And so the ultimate goal is that we have a web-based, and there is a way to do that. What we have learned is so we have different servers across the district. So there's a server at Tybee, there's a server at Peterson, and then after that, because those are the bigger, that's where we have all the campus. And then the elementary campuses are all kind of grouped together on the server. And so what we learned is that the servers lack enough RAM to allow multiple people to be on the web-based interface at the same time. And so that laptop is intermediary, you know, here it is, they can have that PD, which really, if we had a true active shooter event, there's gonna be a emergency operations center that will have kind of two places. We'll have an incident command, which will be on the side of the incident, and that's where you're gonna have people that are directly responsible for the response. And you'll have the people that are representing the school district, fire department, police department there. But then beyond that, there's gonna be at the police department, emergency command center, that will include probably a hospital administrator, the chief of police, the fire chief, and probably me over there. And we'll be directing at a higher level. And so having those, there will be direct communication with the people on the ground, so to speak, that will be available. But it would be better if we were able to have that web-based interface in more locations. And so what we have to do first is basically we're gonna fill those servers up with as much RAM as they can possibly take, and then see, okay, now that we've done that, how many users can we put on the web-based interface before it crashes? Right now, we know it's 2 or 3. And so if we add all that RAM, we might be able to get to 7 to 10 users. But we're not at this point able to have, and we thought, we had thought about, we would like to have like every patrol officer be able to have access to it in their vehicles. Yes, that would be nice, but practically speaking, if you're a patrol officer, you're not going to be in your car looking at a computer screen. You're going to be going into the building and taking care of the threat. And so really, who really needs that access is really people in command who can say, this is where the person is, this is where they've gone. And so that's the practical side. And I guess going through the drilling that I watched with the Hotel Peterson, those guys, their job is to breach, get into the building and go find bad. And so, and it happens very fast. And most active, the average time for these active kind of events to occur is usually 5 minutes or less. And then I can't remember what it was. I think it was 50% are done within 5 minutes, 90% are over 7 minutes. And so, honestly, I think it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be getting access, but on a practical level, by the time log in, once, by the time you know the event has started or is occurring, and the time it takes you to get to that computer, chances are, it's done. And then you're just looking at history, you're not looking at, something active. I know that when they had the Parkland shooting, the poor response at Parkland was made worse by looking at the video cameras, because people that were looking at it were looking at they were looking at a delay.
Yeah.
And so, but the reason they were even looking at that was because you didn't have people doing their jobs and going into the building, which is that was the first example of that. The second example of that was the Valley. So that's, you cannot predict human behavior, but watching our local law enforcement in action, they know what to do, they know what their job is. And I don't believe that we would have a delayed response in our community to any of this. So, but yes, we are working on getting more accessibility to that. Because you never know.
Right. And the city communications have been, they're really ramping those up, is my understanding. They've got some funding, like federal. And so new towers, new communication systems. Does that help our situation there?
I don't know specifically the answer to that. I know that you're probably aware of this, but I'll say it to the group that we have a district-wide, our own district-wide digital repeater radio system, and we have a radio in the Brooklyn Police Department dispatch center that we can communicate with the police department directly. What we can't do is we can't talk directly to the patrol officer. And that's kind of baked into the system anyway, because really that in any kind of a crisis situation, the first thing that breaks down is communications. And it's not because people don't know how to do it, it's just because there's this many people trying to communicate on one channel, and you get to where you're talking over people. So we really didn't want a scenario where we're trying to communicate through the police radio bands, but we do have the capability of directly talking to the dispatch center. I know that so you're right on track with what their upgrades, because one of the things I got a call yesterday, they said, hey, right now our radio band, they don't have to pick up a radio to talk to them. It's actually on a computer, and they click a button and they can talk to us seamlessly, just like they talk to the patrol officers. And so the message yesterday was, hey, we're about to transitioning. Can you give us one of your radios that's on your channel so that we can still communicate? So yeah, so I took it over there. So they have that. We are integrated in that way. And I know that there's some other, probably with these new systems, capabilities that they didn't have before that they might start to explore, where there might be certain people in PD that could hear us besides just the dispatch center. But yeah, I think that's a good thing. Thank you for that question. It's a question that we can ask. Maybe it's just the chief and the lieutenants, patrol lieutenant, and the chief of police or assistant chief of police. We can communicate with them whenever we use somehow, and they have this channel that we use. So it's a good question.
Living in the world that we do today, I personally would like to think the hours of training you've gone through, the thought, the level of thought and the communication with the organizations, because as someone who's on these campuses regularly, I just appreciate knowing that there's someone thinking about and taking care of as much as we can manage, and that it creates that sense of safety being on campus. So I'm sure our staff and player students feel that same level of, right, yes, we live in this world, but someone's doing some thinking and preparing
there's
the
more than
event.
just, and the great thing is that the PD is, we really, police department is our primary law enforcement agency. The sheriff's office certainly will respond if it's within their jurisdiction, but PD will respond to them just like they respond to campus. And so, but I'll tell you, both of those agencies, they're, don't even bat an eyelash. And I said, hey, talking to the sheriff's office, hey, I'd like to come train you guys on SRP. Okay, when can you be here? It wasn't, oh, are you sure? It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, yeah, okay. And so I called the chief deputy yesterday, and within 30 minutes, I had a day and time to go and present. And so,
Kind of makes me think that our schools are safer than anywhere else in town. I mean, you can be HUD that, this is about the safest place to be.
I mean, I think you're right, and I'm not just saying that because I work for the school system, but I think that we have, and also I feel like we're safer today than we were on May 30th. In a lot of ways, tons of things. And so I hate that something like the Valley had happened to get us to the point of that now. But the world has changed, and we're living in a vastly different time in our history. I think we have to do this. It's just plain simple. There's not any way around it anymore. So just feel appreciative of our first responders and the other people, Dr. Faust, Jared, and other principals, teachers. I mean, everybody's had a lot of opportunity for feedback, and of course, there's the implementation that has to take place, and that's hard. It's a lot of habits that have to be broken.
Preparation is not just garbage.
No.
And that's huge.
It's multifaceted. There's a lot of angles to this. Physical, emotional, like lots of different things that have been looked at. So
Yeah, thank you. And legislative session coming up starts in January. I think we're going to see some legislation come out of this. I really hope that not only do we have legislation, but we also have funding behind all of this. Because honestly, school safety allotment, Federal ISD receives about $49,000 for school safety from the state of Texas, and that's, you can't do anything. You can't do much with $49,000. We're very lucky that we had bond to fall back on, and otherwise, we would still do everything we're doing. It would be more difficult to make an impact on those programs. So the fact that we had that bond money in place, what a blessing that happened in 2018. Had money left in it at this point. There's very thankful to the community for that. So, all right, anything else?
our next meeting then, if you'll note, is in January of 2023. Just our other meetings will be in the spring, so just keep that date in mind, and we'll see you then. Good adjourn.
Thank you. Let's stop.